Book 1. Chapter 21. Of the old man of the mountain, of his palace and gardens, of his capture and his death. Having spoken of this country, mention shall now be made of the old man of the mountain. The district in which his residence lay obtained the name of Meleret, signifying in the language of the Saracens, the place of heretics, and his people that of Meleretites or holders of heretical tenets. As we apply the term of Patharini to certain heretics amongst Christians. The following account of this chief, Marco Polo testifies to his having heard from sundry persons. He was named Alo-eddin, and his religion was that of Mahomet. In a beautiful valley enclosed between two lofty mountains, he had formed a luxurious garden, stored with every delicious fruit and every fragrant shrub that could be procured. Palaces of various sizes and forms were erected in different parts of the grounds, ornamented with works in gold, with paintings, and with furniture of rich silks. By means of small conduits contrived in these buildings, streams of wine, milk, honey, and some of pure water, were seen to flow in every direction. The inhabitants of these palaces were elegant and beautiful damsels, accomplished in the arts of singing, playing upon all sorts of musical instruments, dancing, and especially those of dalliance and amorous allurement. Clothed in rich dresses, they were seen continually sporting and amusing themselves in the garden and pavilions, their female guardians being confined within doors, and never suffered to appear. The object which the chief had in view in forming a garden of this fascinating kind was this, that Mahomet having promised to those who should obey his will the enjoyments of paradise, where every species of sensual gratification should be found, in the society of beautiful nymphs, he was desirous of its being understood by his followers, that he also was a prophet and the compeer of Mahomet, and had the power of admitting to paradise such as he should choose to favor. In order that none without his license might find their way into this delicious valley, he caused a strong and inexpugnable castle to be erected at the opening of it, through which the entry was by a secret passage. At his court, likewise, this chief entertained a number of youths, from the age of 12 to 20 years, selected from the inhabitants of the surrounding mountains, who showed a disposition for martial exercises, and appeared to possess the quality of daring courage. To them he was in the daily practice of discoursing on the subject of the paradise announced by the prophet, and of his own power of granting admission. And at certain times he caused draughts of a soporific nature to be administered to 10 or a dozen of the youths, and when half dead with sleep, he had them conveyed to the several apartments of the palaces in the garden. Upon awakening from this state of lethargy, their senses were struck with all the delightful objects that have been described, and each perceived himself surrounded by lovely damsels, singing, playing, and attracting his regards by the most fascinating caresses, serving him also with delicate viands and exquisite wines, until intoxicated with excess of enjoyment, amidst actual rivulets of milk and wine, he believed himself assuredly in paradise, and felt an unwillingness to relinquish its delights. When 4 or 5 days had thus been passed, they were thrown once more into a state of somnolency, and carried out of the garden. Upon their being introduced to his presence, and questioned by him as to where they had been, their answer was, in paradise, through the favor of your highness, and then before the whole court, who listened to them with eager curiosity and astonishment. They gave a circumstantial account of the scenes to which they had been witnesses. The chief thereupon addressing him, said, "We have the assurances of our prophet that he who defends his Lord shall inherit paradise, and if you show yourselves devoted to the obedience of my orders, that happy lot awaits you." Animated to enthusiasm by words of this nature, all deemed themselves happy to receive the commands of their master, and were forward to die in his service. The consequence of this system was, that when any of the neighboring princes, or others, gave umbrage to this chief, they were put to death by these his disciplined assassins, none of whom felt terror at the risk of losing their own lives, which they held in little estimation, provided they could execute their master's will. On this account his tyranny became the subject of dread in all the surrounding countries. He had also constituted 2 deputies or representatives of himself, of whom one had his residence in the vicinity of Damascus, and the other in Kurdistan, and these pursued the plan he had established for training their young dependents. Thus there was no person, however powerful, who, having become exposed to the enmity of the old man of the mountain, could escape assassination. His territory being situated within the dominions of Ulao, Hulagu, the brother of the Grand Khan, Mangu, that prince had information of his atrocious practices, as above related, as well as of his employing people to rob travelers in their passage through his country, and in the year 1262, sent one of his armies to besiege this chief in his castle. It proved, however, so capable of defense, that for 3 years no impression could be made upon it, until at length he was forced to surrender from the want of provisions, and being made prisoner, was put to death. His castle was dismantled, and his garden of paradise destroyed.